They're kicking the can down the road. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, have a sit down, and let's talk about some thoughts about this budget that came out last night. Now it's still going to be voted and discussed today in Parliament, but I think we can all agree they are kicking the can down the road. Now, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about this budget last night and this morning and dwelling on it, and there's a few things that have jumped out at me. I found some media articles where they're talking about what can you get from the budget, here, and people are going to gravitate to that, understandably. But they're kicking the can down the road, guys. And oh, how they're kicking the can down the road. We jump over here. This is from the budget website, and it gives you a good summary of it all. People should be looking at this. They should be encouraged to look at this. But if we just go here to 2023 to 2024, you've got a few numbers here. The underlying cash balance is negative $66.9 billion. So deficits are going to be running for a while, everyone. Now, you've got a percent of GDP, that's fine. But gross debt, $1,138,000,000. And that gross debt, D, if we look down here, measures the face value of Australian government securities on issue. So, bonds. Australian government bonds. You can buy them if you want. Yeah. Who guarantees those? Who guarantees the guarantor? Just remember who does. All of us, one way or another. Our future work. That's what's getting spent here. Our future work, our future labor. Nothing comes for free. But here's the real one, the one that's really got me. A percent of GDP is 51.6%. Everyone. GDP. $1.1 trillion. Let's just bring up, as I always do, let's just bring up some other, another chart. My good old website, good old Observatory of Economic Complexity here. Okay? Because just to get an understanding of some of these other export industries that have so much, influence on Australia. Coal is only $57.2 billion. The government bonds are going to be over $1.1 trillion. Iron ore, $48.1 billion. Petroleum, $17.1 billion. Gold, $16.1 billion. All our exports to China, what we hear about, what we're worried about in the news, we're so dependent on China. It's only not even $100 billion. $1.1 trillion, everyone. You think they're going to dig themselves out of that? What's going to happen when the next party comes in? What's going to happen, everyone? And it's quite... I'm just turning on noise cancellation, guys, so you can't hear the birds in the morning as I'm recording. What's going to happen next time when Labor gets in? Because this is bonds, these are credit. Who's buying them? How much is the Reserve Bank buying? How much is essentially money printing? How low is the interest rate going to get? Which is artificial stimulus to the economy. I'd like to introduce you all to a theory that I think is very important that more people need to become aware of. Because this is just kicking the can down the road. That's all it is. It's kicking the can down the road. Now you've got the MMT proponents that will say, oh no, there's no such thing as savings without government spending, and it's been disproven. It's just a dressed up, old-fashioned approach to things, because savings can fundamentally exist before government. You've got different schools of economic theory using the same words which have different meaning. So it's very hard to communicate. Now I'd like to introduce you to this theory, this business cycle theory from the Austrian School of Economics, because I think it's very relevant. And we're not taught these things. We're not exposed to any of these things because we're really living in a Keynesian world right now on a global scale. And there will come a point when confidence will start to waver. So let's have a look at this. The business cycle describes regularly occurring booms and busts observed in the economy, and the Austrian business cycle theory, sometimes called the hangover theory, or simply ABCT, is an explanation of this phenomenon from the Austrian school. Originally developed by Ludwig von Mises, in 1912 theory of money and credit, it was elaborated on by Hayek and others. In one classical rendition, banks expand credit well beyond their own assets. Yeah, that seems to happen, doesn't it? And by the funds of their clients. Often supported or encouraged by setting of low interest rates by a central bank. Well, we've seen that. We've seen a low cash rate. They didn't go lower. This additional credit flow into the economy from increased borrowing for capital projects stimulates economic activity. And, well, we've got to remember this quote from Canelon. I'm losing my picture of him here, but the quote remains. The effect refers to changes in relative prices resulting from a change in money supply. That's borrowing and economic activity and stimulus. The change in relative prices, maybe one could say housing in Australia, occurs because the change in money supply has a specific injection point and therefore a specific flow path through the economy. So it's flowing through houses. So you get a housing bubble. It's artificial. It's artificial. Projects which would not have been started before seem now profitable, creating malinvestment. Would you think we have some malinvestment here in Australia? How many people are just rushing out into housing? How many people are using this grant, left, right, and centre to get into housing? To pay $500,000 or even more. We'll bring up the call. 800,000 for a specky. If you look at how much it costs to buy some timber, some stud that some of these things are built up, they've got foam stuck to the outside that's flammable. You got buildings that are cracking and falling apart, and people are paying a fortune for them. Yeah, there's a bubble in that sector. I'd say there's been a lot of malinvestment. We've got an economic complexity of our country, guys. What are we? We're, 73rd in the world. We look up the Harvard one. They're saying we're over, I think, 80 or something, even worse. So could one argue there's been perhaps some malinvestment of the 87th. Oh, we've worse than I thought. Some malinvestment perhaps in Australia. So they increase demand for production materials and for labor, and their prices rise, which in turn leads to an increase in prices of consumption goods. Cost of living increases, everyone. If the banks would stop the extension of credit, the boom would be rapidly over. I think it would, wouldn't it? What do you reckon? To prevent the sudden halt of this boom and the resulting collapse of prices, the banks must create more and more credit, and prices will rise even more. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Does it sound familiar? I think it does. And this, I'm only learning about this since the last few years that I got interested in what was going on in property. As an architect, I'd design these projects, and you'd see what people are selling them for. And it didn't make sense because I understood how much a truckload of stud would cost. And it's just nuts. They're putting up an apartment for $250,000 and then selling it for nearly $1 million. And then you've got 200 of the same bloody thing next door to you, and people think it's unique and special. But this expansion of credit cannot continue forever. There is no additional capital or labor. There is only more money and debt. The means of production and labor, which have been diverted to the new enterprises, have been taken away from others. Society is not sufficiently rich to permit the creation of new enterprises without taking away from others. As long as the expansion of credit is continued, this will not be noticed. But it can't be pushed indefinitely. There's the question. How far can they kick the can down the road? How far can they kick the can down the road? Are we reaching the point where it's going to burst? It's going to tip over? How much have they sold out? We may look at this here, and 51% of GDP, or even their net debt, 43% of GDP, we'll say, in 2024, 4 years' time. US is about to approach 100%. How far can they kick the can down the road? That's the question. The inflation and the boom can last only as long as the public thinks the prices will stop rising in the near future. When the public becomes aware that the inflation will not end and that prices will continue to rise, panic sets in. Eventually, people may give up the currency and rush to exchange money for goods, buying things they have no use for just in order to get rid of the money, the so-called flight into real values. If we jump over here, I've drawn this, I've pulled out this explanation of flight into real goods or real values, because I would argue perhaps this could be why you're going to see some people jumping into property. Traditionally, people go into precious metals. They go into gold, silver, other goods. You saw in Germany, if you heard about the stories of hyperinflation there during the Weimar Republic, people would go out and buy furniture, buy anything they could, just so they had goods to barter because the money lost all its value. You talk about that, people think you're a crazy prepper. Maybe we're all becoming crazy preppers when we learn about these things. But, if you had have mentioned the risk of all these laws and regulations and the Biosecurity Acts here allowing the state to lock everyone down, they would have thought you were a crazy prepper, wouldn't you? Doesn't seem so crazy now, does it? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we all need to have a little bit of crazy prepper in us. Maybe that's the problem. The crazy preppers, they haven't been pushing strong enough, so we don't even have emergency reserves. People don't even have, 6 months of money set aside. So the flight into goods is the frantic rush to spend all money and savings and other available cash buying goods whether needed or not in order to avoid holding, even for a short time, any rapid depreciating monetary units. So they just want to get it out. This occurs at the point in the development of inflation when the public is convinced that prices will continue to rise endlessly and at an accelerated pace. The flight into goods, or real value, marks the complete breakdown of a monetary system. See also hyperinflation. You have others arguing that we are looking at a deflationary environment. Could a flight into real goods, if you've got money? Frankly, this is what we're doing. We've got cash put aside. We need to get structural work done on the house, so we're planning to do it within the next few months. Because I'd rather have concrete in the ground on my land where I can build on, expand on, build extra rooms as I need, than cash in the bank that's going to get inflated away to nothing. At least a piece of stud. Worst case scenario, you can cut it out of the house and you've got a physical good you can sell. Maybe I'm getting too extreme there, but you got to think about it. Remember, guys, 1.1 trillion. So how are they reporting on this? We can jump to a news.com.au article and see their take on it, because it really feels like they're kicking the can down the road, guys. Let's see if there'll be any discussions about the risks of this budget in this article. Any concerns, any worries of this spending? Because it feels like we're just playing out, the Austrian business cycle. Seems to make a lot of sense. It's a good theory. That's just, even the MMTers, they're going to have to tax this 1 trillion, because they need to service this, everyone. This 1.1 trillion needs to be serviced. The people who own this, the Reserve Bank or others, expect their payments. We're the collateral. The citizens are. That means there's future work. The only thing that can pay for that is future work. Literally work. You have to work. You can't get something for nothing. I know that's what they want you to believe, but it's all fake. It's smoke and mirrors, everyone. It's smoke and mirrors. It's a trick. It's a trick. It's deception. You have to work for it. Hope what the plan, I imagine, will be to inflate money to the point where that requires less work to do it. Still, it's work. But then we all pay for it. If we don't have to, if they've inflated away, we all pay for it because all of our monetary savings that we've put aside loses its value too. We pay for it one way or another. Is it worth it? Is going into this amount of debt worth it? Has it been an insane overreaction? Are the public going to change the way they vote? Or are they just going to go look at this and say, oh, look what I get in the budget and go along with it? How do we shift opinion? That's why, even bit by bit, if we draw attention to things like this, to these theories, these alternative explanations for the economy that seem to just make so much sense with what's going on. At least that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. 1,000 barbecues across the country, people talk. Have you heard about this Austrian business cycle theory? It makes a lot of sense. It's a school of economics that normal people can understand. It's funny that. It's like perhaps it's all just the mobile phone plan, extra complexity to dazzle you. Because we're trapped in it. People are talking about, moving overseas, going to other countries. I saw one gentleman left a comment about going to Africa, or living in Africa to go over there because there's more opportunities. Might be right. Australia was the wild frontier one time. So let's have a look at the news.com take on this. So there's plenty of good news for many Australians in the budget, including tax cuts and other incentives. Here's what's in it for you. Good news. I'm feeling down because of this budget, guys. I'm worried. I'm worried. Despite the $1 trillion debt, yeah, exactly. That's it. So it's all bullshit. There's plenty of good news for many Australians in the budget. Here's what is in it for you. So if you're a taxpayer, yes, it's finally been confirmed that Aussies will get a tax cut and it will be backdated. So once the legislation is passed, they will see extra money in their pay packets. The government will bring forward stage 2 of its legislative tax cuts. That will see the 19% threshold rise from 37,000 to 45,000. And the 32% threshold go from 90,000 to 120,000. Okay. I mean, I'm for any tax cuts, but the problem is if we go down here, we can look at budget at a glance. They will show us where all the revenue is coming from. They've got some charts here. Hang on. Here we go. Okay, so here's the problem. This is where the government's revenue comes from. You've got $222 billion, this is 2021, in individual income tax. A big, huge slice of the pie. You can see why people want to minimize that. You've got fringe benefits tax of $3.9 billion. This is the stupidest tax in the world. It's a jealousy tax. I've got absolutely no argument at all with a business including like gym membership as a benefit to their staff, or providing them goods and services as a way to give them a benefit. That just creates more economic activity. Isn't that what you want? But it's a jealousy tax. Superannuation taxes, $8.2 billion. Company resource rent taxes, $87.1 billion. Other taxes, $7.4. Other excises, $3.8. Sales tax, $64.6 billion. Fuel excise, $19 billion. It'd be great if they cut that. That'd have an impact on people's lives too. And non-tax revenue, $37.5 billion, and customs duty, $18.5. So this is their income pie, $472 billion. But look at their expenses. Welfare, $227 billion. So that's the thing. I mean, you got the income tax is pretty much just all going into welfare, guys. This is literally just wealth distribution, redistribution, socialism right here. Boom, boom. That's it. Other economic affairs, 97, nearly 100 billion just put under other. Other purposes, another 100 billion. Health. So you got more spent on other economic affairs and other purposes than health. Health is 93.8 billion. Education, 41.7 billion. Defense, $34.4 billion, and all other functions, $78.5 billion. So, I mean, there you go. They're spending too much. They need to trim. They need to trim. They need to cut back. Everyone. There's fat in all of these things. There's fat in all of these. And the thing is, everyone goes, education, education. There'll come a point where throwing more money at it just won't create any more effective outcomes. We've seen that. We've seen all the money we've thrown. Hang on, I'll bring up here at our building education revolution has had no material impact in improving our quality of education. If anything, it's gone down. It's gone down. There needs to be some real different approaches to it. So, but let's continue here. I mean, okay, so we're all getting tax cuts. You know, the lower middle income tax offset will also stay for an extra year, meaning eligible individuals will get $1,080 and dual income couples will get $2,160. So, I mean, I'm a fan for any tax cuts, and these are good. We need to simplify our tax system. We really do. We really do. So if you're on government payments, the cash payments continue for this group, who are set to receive an extra $250 from December and another $250 from March next year at a cost of $2.6 billion. So this includes those on age pension, disability support pension, carer payment, family tax benefit, including the double orphan pension, not in receipt of a primary income support payment, carer allowance, pensioners, concession cards, Commonwealth Senior Health Hold, and eligible Veterans Affairs. It follows $200 to $750 payments made to Social Security and other eligible recipients. I mean, pensioners, what are you going to spend the money on? My mother will probably put it for food or probably towards power bills or things like that. All of these things that have gone up in cost. You've got to remember, guys, $200 billion of this, it's just magicked. It's inflation. So if you're pregnant, here we go. The coronavirus has meant people have lost their jobs or work reduced hours, so they do not meet the requirements for government paid parental leave payment. But the government will relax the rules a little, so they are still covered. Normally, parents must have worked 10 of the previous 13 months before they gave birth or adopted a child to be eligible. Okay, so they've made that easier. This will be changed to allow parents who give birth or adopt a child between March 22, 2020 and March 31, 2021. Okay, so they're making it easier for that. Cool. I mean, here's the thing. Nothing is sadder than seeing, well, the problem is the government is stepping in with all of this paid parental leave because we now have a cost of living. Everything is inflated so high. Both parties need to work in a relationship. It's tough. And it is sad. The time where a mother bonds with a child right at the beginning is critically important. So it's sad that we've gotten to this point that we need the government to redistribute money to make this happen. It just shows you this is one of the unintended consequences of everything else they're bubbling up and manipulating. Kind of sucks. So if you hate dealing with your super, we get to keep our own money. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, no, of course not, Florian. Of course not. So they'll make changes to how super funds work, saying a new account will no longer be automatically created every time someone changes jobs. Instead, Australians will automatically keep their super fund when they change employers. Yep, okay, that's good to see, simplifying the system. And that your super tool will be established. Cool. I mean, guys, let me know your favorite self-managed super setup in the comments. We should do an episode. I really need to do an episode on that. If you're worried about getting into uni, demand for uni places is expected to rise next year, and the government will be providing an extra $299 million to fund 12,000 more undergraduate places. This will also support 50,000 online short courses to provide a faster alternative for those wanting to upskill, including courses in teaching, health, science, information technology, and agriculture. Now, this I really like. This is smart. This is smart. Although I'm concerned that it's just going to be a cash cow for all the people providing these short online courses. Still, it is innovative. This is the first innovative thing we've seen here. Because why would you go to a traditional uni for years, incurring cost, reduced income earning potential, when you can do these online courses? So, if you're a young person looking for a job, businesses will be providing incentives to hire young people, especially those between the ages of 16 and 35. Oh, I don't make it anymore. I'm too old. I'm too old. See? Ageism, guys. For those that hire someone under 30, a job maker hire credit will be paid for up to 12 months at a rate of $200 a week. $200 a week. What, 10 grand? 10 grand to hire someone under 30, everyone. 10 grand to hire someone under 30. Can you think about that? You just hire them for 200. Yeah, I know that. There you go. There will also be a $100 a week credit available for hiring someone between 30 and 35 years old. Wait, so yeah, they're doing this rather than just giving more money to people on the dole or support to get them into work. And in some way, I can see this is smarter because you don't want to have welfare so high it discourages people from working. You want to make it easier for businesses to hire people. 10 grand a week for someone in a lower job, that's fine. What will happen is that will start to materialize in the pay of people because you'll offer more. There'll be more competition for workers once things get better. But it's only for 12 months, so we'll have to see. Would 5 grand help you hire some? I guess it helps business. Still, guys, in order to access the credit, new employers must work for at least 20 hours a week, must have been receiving job seeker payments, youth allowance, or parenting payment for at least one of the previous 3 months at the time of hiring. All businesses other than the major banks will be able to take up the credit. Businesses will be offering a 50% wage subsidy for every apprentice they hire. So this is the government subsidizing so much employment. They're terrified that we're going to get huge unemployment figures. What do you think about this one? What do you think? Would you rather see it in welfare or would you rather see it in this method? Let me know in the comments, guys. Let me know. I don't know if I'm sure it'll make a difference to some businesses. $200 a week for, someone on minimum wage. It can offset that cost. So, an apprenticeship. Well, we saw it, an extra 100,000. And I'm concerned that what's going to happen when those subsidies disappear. 50% is a lot bigger than $100. That's going to be a bigger hit. We might have 100,000 apprentices who can't go past their first year of apprenticeship. If you're elderly and want to stay in your home, yay! There we go. We'll scroll back down. Everything's falling apart today. Do you want to stay in your home? Demand for home care packages has been high, especially during the coronavirus. The government will provide an extra 23,000 places at a cost of $1.6 billion. This brings the total to 180,000 places, and the government says 99% of all those wanting in-home care will now have access to some form of support. Funding will also be provided to improve skills in the aged care workforce and provide extra dementia training and support. The government will also provide significant additional investment once it receives the final recommendation of the Royal Commission into aged care. Encouraging people to age in place is a good thing. But the problem is, particularly with the housing, all the little tiny homes, you can't age in place in those things. It's impossible. That's my one criticism of them. Or my biggest one. If you need access to mental health services. Mental health has been a big concern during the pandemic, and the government will provide an extra $148 million to this area. This will allow Australians to access up to 10 extra Medicare rebated psychology sessions with the support of their GP, doubling the number to 20 sessions. So this is good. We need something like this. More funding will be available to Lifeline, Headspace, Beyond Blue, and Kids Helpline. I saw here in Queensland they're providing funding for a women's shelter in Bundaberg. I'm still waiting to see how the guys are struggling to get that men's shelter up right now. People don't realize how little support there is for men. If you're if you're experiencing domestic violence as a father and try to get out with your child, you're kind of screwed. That's the current state of things. Guys, if you have ovarian cancer, your medication costs will be decreased because they're listing a drug on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme. Instead of costing more than $140,000 per course, patients will now have access to the medicine at $6.69 per script for concession card holders and around $41 per script for general patients. Why even bother? I guess this is to to give the people on the concession card holders the perception that they're getting a better deal. So if you have a business that needs new equipment or would like to upgrade what they already have, we have a powerful incentive to bring forward these purchases. Notice this is forward purchases. Until June 22, any business with a turnover less than $5 billion will be able to write off the full value of eligible assets they buy for their business. Losses incurred to June 22 will also be able to be offset against prior profits made in or after the 2018-2019 financial year. There you go. There you go, guys. Wow. Businesses will also be encouraged to retain or reskill employees who have moved to a different role in the business, as they will no longer have to pay fringe benefit tax on this. Fantastic. Let's just abolish fringe benefit tax. I mean, if you're magicking all this money out of it, let's just abolish all taxes for a year and just do a complete reset of the system. You know, who cares? What's another trillion between friends? Those with an aggregate annual turnover between 10 and 50 million will also have access up to 10 tax concessions, including an exemption from fringe benefit tax on car parking, work-related phones, and laptops provided to employees. See, look at how petty this shit is in fringe benefit tax. Look at how petty. It is a jealousy tax. It is a petty jealousy tax. Just get rid of the damn thing. Simplify our lives. If you want faster access to internet, if working from home is driving you crazy due to bad internet connections, help is on the way. The budget sees an extra $4.5 billion will be provided for the NBN and another $29.2 million to fast-track the rollout of 5G. We probably would have already had it now if the government just had have stepped out of the way. If you care about jobs for women, Australian women make up the majority of those who have lost their jobs during the coronavirus pandemic, and the government will provide $231 million over 4 years for the second Women's Economic Security Package. This will increase grants for women's leadership and development programs and co-fund mentoring programs that will increase women-founded startups. A Women in Science, Technology, Engineering, Maths Industry Cadetship program will support 500 women to complete advanced diploma studies and work integrated learning experiences. I mean, it's just political, you know. Normal women don't need all this rubbish, honestly. It's just these type of handouts and supports just undermine the work and effort of comparable women, confident, normal women that are competent, that don't need a government helping them out. It just undermines all their efforts. But, you know, it'll buy votes. It'll buy votes. If you're worried about cybersecurity, hackers can wreak havoc on businesses, and an extra $201.5 million will be provided as part of the 2020 cybersecurity strategy to create a more secure online world. Now, this worries me because it just screams of not understanding the implications of what the government's doing and restricting our freedoms. That's what concerns me. A further $450 million is provided for law enforcement and intelligence agencies to keep Australians safe from foreign and domestic threats. If you want to see more research and development funding, an extra $2 billion will be provided in research and development incentives, including rewarding businesses that invest the most, remove the cap on refunds, and lifting the rate. The government will provide $459 million extra funding to CSIRO, $1 billion in extra research funding for universities, and $1.9 billion in new funding to support low-emission and renewable technologies. I just know my experiences of seeing my landlord get tax credits for R&D because he built a metal box on the back of the office, and it just was a complete waste of time. You know, you got to remember, all of this is future work that you have to do. It's your money. You've got to think about it. Would you invest your money in these things? Would you invest your money in a failing business? Because that's what they're doing in some regards. Think about it from that perspective. It's not free money. It's your work. Every day you work, a portion of that work goes to the government. If you strike it rich and make a great investment and maybe make a fortune in an investment, then the government will come and take a big chunk of it. Maybe they had nothing to do with it. Maybe their infrastructure was not involved at all. They'll still take a chunk of it. That's how it works, guys. So if you care about the environment, the Commonwealth National Parks will get the biggest single investment, with an extra $233 being provided to upgrade facilities at Uluru, Can We Climb It Again, Kakadu, Christmas Island, and Boundary National Park. In total, an extra 1.8 billion is being provided to the to the environment, including 67 million to restore mangroves, tidal marshes, seagrasses to help protect the health of Australia's oceans. Recycling will also get a $250 million boost for better infrastructure in the hopes of stopping more than 600,000 tons of waste ending up in landfill and also creating 10,000 jobs. There will also be 1.9 billion in new funding to support low emissions and renewable technologies, helping to lower emissions and address climate change. Well, you know why they're doing this. No one's taking out garbage anymore. If you want to see more gas, the government will provide 52.9 million to support the gas industry and help unlock 5 key gas basins, starting with the Bataloo Basin in the Northern Territory, the North Bowen and Galilee basins in Queensland. Reforms include creating an Australian gas hub with more competitive and transparent prices, delivering an efficient pipeline and transport market, and empowering gas customers. So, I mean, if this can filter through to consumers, that's good. If this can ensure more resource rent taxes or royalties to reduce the demand for this, that would be good as well. Why not? So, if you're a first home buyer, those open to buying a brand new home, and here we go. So they're expanding the first home loan deposit scheme. 10,000 more people will get these government guaranteed loans. And again, it's brand new homes, so it puts pressure down on demand for existing stock. The value of properties that can be purchased has been increased to 950,000 in Sydney, 850 in Melbourne, and 650 in Brisbane. There you go, guys. Constant supply of credit. The bubble needs to keep going. It's happening in property. Malinvestment, anyone? 950,000 for a specky. They're not really productive assets, guys. They don't produce anything, do they? Think about a house. Maybe it produces a few kids, but people are getting too lazy for that now these days too. If you think about building more affordable homes, an extra $1 billion in low-cost finance will be available for the construction of affordable housing, bringing the total to $3 billion. Another $150 million will also be available to construct new homes in regional areas as part of Indigenous home ownership. If you want funding for the NDIS, more Australians with a disability will be helped by the National Disability Insurance Scheme thanks to a $3.9 billion boost. I mean, we've just had our first encounters with that because we have a baby now that's disabled. And it's nuts. It is insane. Rachel's handling it all. But there's all these intermediaries between the people that manage it and access the scheme. I'm worried that it could be a huge potential of misuse funds. I could just see it happening. Wait in a few years we start seeing some royal commissions into it. So if you want to see more money go into road upgrades, there'll be $2 billion up for grabs for states to do road safety upgrades, but it will be provided on a use it or lose it basis. If one state takes too long to take advantage of the funding, another state will get the money. An extra $1 billion will also be provided to support local councils to upgrade local roads, footpaths, and street lighting. If you want to see more infrastructure built, the government will provide $14 billion for new or fast-track projects around Australia over the next 4 years, supporting 40,000 jobs. And those are only temporary, guys. Those are only temporary. We're borrowing against the future for temporary jobs. Singleton Bypass, upgrade of Shepparton. Yep, we've looked at these in other videos. If you are a part of the manufacturing sector, the government will invest an extra $1.5 billion in manufacturing over 4 years, with investments to go towards 6 priority areas: resources technology, critical minerals processing, food and beverage manufacturing, medical products, clean energy and recycling, defense industry, and the space industry. If you live or work in a regional area. Those living in regional areas have really done it tough thanks to drought, fire, and the pandemic. To support people in those areas, the government will provide almost $553 million in funding over 4 years. This includes supporting regional tourism operators to attract domestic tourists back to regional areas through $51 million in funding over 2 years. There will also be an awareness campaign promoting regional Australia. The government's package of measures include investments in community infrastructure involving training among health students and money to help deliver digital services and technologies. There will also be money to develop the skills of local lenders and for the installation of mobile phone infrastructure to cover mobile to cover mobile and digital hotspots. Farmers struggling with the impact of drought will have access to $2 billion in concessional loans. If you're concerned about water, the government will provide an extra $2 billion to build vital water infrastructure, including dams, weirs, and pipelines, as part of the national water grid. Now, I'm concerned with water. Our potable water supply as a ratio to our population has gone down. But the problem is we've got so much green tape here in Australia. How much of that $2 billion will be pissed away on legal fees, fighting the Greens, trying to block things? At least it'll keep lawyers employed. So if you're a farmer, for those struggling with drought, the government will spend $156 billion over 4 years to help farmers recover and prepare for future droughts. These include a further $2 billion in drought concessional loans and $19.6 million to extend the National Drought and North Queensland Flood Response and Recovery Agency for another year. A further $50 million to build on-farm dams, tanks, and troughs will be provided. So there we have it, everyone. There we have a look at the budget, an introduction to the Austrian business cycle theory, and, the potential for $1.1 trillion of government securities by 2024, which is more than half of our GDP. What do you think? You happy with this budget? Are they just kicking the can down the road? Do you think we'll see a flight into real goods? Will people jump into property or other assets? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.